judge has ordered Alex Jones's InfoWars to be auctioned off to pay Sandy Hook families. US bankruptcy judge Christopher Lopez said the platform's assets will be auctioned off piece by piece on November 13th. The auction will help cover the cost of more than $1 billion Jones owes the relatives of victims of the Sandy Hook elementary school shooting. For context, in 2012, that tragic mass shooting killed 26 people, 20 of whom were children. Jones repeatedly called it a hoax, suggesting that crisis actors had been used to help get gun control laws passed. Families of the victims then filed defamation lawsuits against Jones in Connecticut and in Texas, and in 2022 they won $1.5 billion.
Jones took to X, blasting Democrats and the government over the decision on Bannon's War Room on Wednesday. Let's watch.
Well, they've been trying to shut me down and sue me for 7 years. They had rigged court cases where the judges found me guilty and then had show trials. I never did anything they said I did. InfoWars being under attack, their attempts to shut it down and their desperateness to do it is really canary in the coal mine for what they want to do to everybody.
Jones said he's trying to get a, quote, good patriot group to buy InfoWars.
Conservatives have come out in support of Jones. Candace Owens took to X, posting, quote, "What the federal government did to Alex Jones is positively criminal." Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene posted, quote, "The shooter was the one who horrifically murdered those innocent children, not Alex Jones. He might have said things that were wrong and then repeatedly apologized. How many times have you ever heard the mainstream media apologize about all the horrible things that they said?" And look, there is something to this because I'm a free speech absolutist. Now, I know it's, you know, he lost in a defamation trial, libel trial. I don't even know how I feel. I don't feel very strongly about those laws. Anyway, I don't, like, I'm so much of a free speech absolutist, I'm not sure I would even have those laws. He lost fair and square in quote, so in court, and so I'm not, you know, I'm not deploring that process, but it is, they treat him as if he was the one who committed the crime of murdering the kids. He said things that were horrible, and you can respond by calling him out as horrible, not frequenting his television show, not watching it, condemning it. I think that's the right way to respond than, you know, stripping him of his assets piece by piece and selling them off. I don't love that.
I think this is very obviously going to be the item today that we most strongly disagree on. Firstly, I just think he's a disgusting, reprehensible individual. I think he's one of the worst people in American public life. 20 children were shot dead. Their parents then have to deal with unimaginable grief. And this grifter starts talking about it being a hoax, oh, it was the government, oh, they're trying to get gun control. Just nonsense. And then the parents have to deal with harassment from his fans, or whatever you want to call them, that adds to that grief. It is, in my opinion, completely appropriate to utilize defamation laws to prevent people being slandered in that way. In his case, it was a particularly egregious slander because of the circumstances. A jury of American citizens found against him and found that $1.5 billion. I hope they do strip his assets. I think it'd be richly deserved.
Well, that is what's happening. He has called on a conservative or, you know, free speech person to repurchase those assets, reconstitute it, and put him in charge of that. I'm seeing various kind of free speech, conservative or libertarian people calling for that. I don't know if that's going to happen. And
I don't understand what the defense is, though, from a free speech perspective, even.
That he engaged in speech, and his speech was bad and wrong, but
it was lies.
Able to do that.
You should be able to tell lies about bereaved parents and how their children were murdered.
You're not criminal. They can't put you in jail for telling lies.
But it's defamatory, though. I mean, if someone said you shot 20 people, that you could take them to court, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Right.
But
you're not opposed to that law being the case.
I mean, I sort of am. I would probably, in my ideal world, I would not even have that category exist. I would say that the answer to bad speech is more speech. I can correct it. I can say, no, that's wrong for these reasons, and we can have it out. When you try to say, when you establish some authority to determine false from truth, you set yourself up in the position where we're going to eventually criminalize true information. And this does happen in other countries where they have much stricter, I mean, you know this from the UK, where there's stricter standards for libel and defamation that make it, in some cases, difficult to hold powerful people to account because journalists are afraid to do stories about powerful people because even if you're correct in what you're saying, you can set yourself up for a farcical legal proceeding based on the resources of that person you're criticizing. I think that's true in Australia. I mean, correct me if I'm, you're more familiar with these policies in these countries than I am, but that's the fear.
It is true that there are stricter libel laws, certainly in Britain and Ireland and I think Australia. Actually, this is one thing where I vary from the journalistic orthodoxy and from your view. I would have stricter defamation and libel laws here because I don't think that this romantic view that journalists and reporters are acting mostly on behalf of the powerless against the powerful is actually true. I think the laxity of defamation laws here allows people in the media who are themselves representing very powerful interests to defame people who are often regular citizens and have no other power of redress. And so that's my objection to the laxity of defamation laws.
I think what conservatives would say is that there's a lot of lying or exaggerating or bad information being put out about people on their side by the media and by Democrats, et cetera. Maybe I would agree it doesn't rise to the level of the things Alex Jones said that were so wildly untrue, but that's not getting criminalized or subject to lawsuits or all of that, that it's one-sided, and so this norm does not benefit people on the right. I think that's what they would say.
I mean, the issue of who it benefits, I don't think that you should be able to say willfully false things about other people without there being a penalty to that. And if those things are said about conservatives, they shouldn't be said. And I would have, in some dream scenario, the capacity for conservatives or liberals or communists or far-right people to sue if that happened. I don't have any objection to that at all. Now, in Alex Jones's case, as I've said, I just think he's awful. And I think the sympathy here is duly deserved by the parents who had their children murdered and did not deserve to have a prominent, albeit fringy person make false accusations about it.
Yeah, I hear you. But I would go the other way. I would say it'd be just better to have more speech norms. In fact, I think our libel and defamation is a little bit outdated in that it existed during a time period where your reputation was almost something you had to more zealously guard for your own financial health, right? This was initially designed to cover cases where someone says, that my neighbor or that business person, has syphilis or something, and it was
ruin your business and
that's going to destroy your business and your livelihood. Now there are so many. There's so much information out there. There's so much ability to speak. It is, we're not just all writing letters to each other, something in the dark. It's almost beyond the capacity to kind of control it. It ends up seeming like, okay, well, why do some false statements end up rising to this level?
Yeah, but you see, the thing about we all have the capacity to speak, and there's so much speech out there, and free speech cures all. The problem that I have with that is it suggests that everyone's voice is equally loud or equally easily heard. And if somebody, for the sake of argument, anchoring the NBC Evening News says something about a random private citizen, that private citizen's voice cannot in fact be heard to the same extent. That's why there are different, to be fair to the current defamation laws, there are different laws for a private citizen as opposed to someone in a public role. But this idea that, oh, well, we can all be heard, I just don't think that actually is the reality.
Well, you tell us what you think. We'll be back with more Rising right after this.